Hojo, the high school loner, was trudging down the hallway. When he spotted a girl standing in his path as she turned around, he recognized her immediately. Orare, the girl who made his life hell. She noticed him too, instantly flipped the switch from Cuban innocent to pure bossy mode, grabbing his tie with a death grip and threatening him to keep their secret or she'd wipe him off the face of the earth. Sin couldn't even be bothered to care. He just grunted, his mind spiraling back to the disaster of his secret marriage to her. He hated Akane with a burning passion and regretted every second of being tangled in this mess 4 days ago. Akane had been grilling, sat about some journal entries he had messed up. They'd gone back and forth exchanging sharp words, neither backing down. Then Kei's friend him stepped in, hubbing her and begging her to cut us some slack. But in not having it, Hammer asked her what was up with the constant hassle. Aiken thought for a second and casually admitted that she hated Sada the moment she laid eyes on him. That was the reason. No deep philosophical answer, just plain and simple was the human embody of everything that annoyed her. Stato, hearing that, felt his insides twist in disgust and dread. The pain in being married to Akane seemed even more suffocating. Now there was no escape from her, no respite from her vile attitude. She was everywhere and inescapable. Then, just as Sato was about to lose all hope, his cousin Shizzy appeared like an angel in his messed up life. She gave him a quick pat on the head as if reminding him there was at least one person who didn't make him want to crawl into a hole and never come out, as felt a flicker of relief. Shizzy was the only good thing in his damn life. Each over the curious one asked Akane if she really hated that much. She hinted that maybe Orion had a thing for him. A's reaction was explosive. She sent after Heimer, screaming that even if S were the last guy alive, she wouldn't even look at him twice. Hearing that S scream back that he felt the exact same way about her, he wasn't about to let her think she was the only one with a bad opinion. She was a nightmare, and he couldn't get away from her fast enough after school. S was walking home when his grandfather called him. His grandfather, who owned a huge company, was sitting in a fancy car with another older woman. He told Saint he needed to get married and have kids soon. Saint refused to go on any kind of blind date, but his grandfather insisted and ordered his men to bring Essid back in. Olio Essid explained that his grandfather, though only 65 years old, had turned the Hojo company into a global leader. He asked the driver where they were going, but the driver didn't know, just saying he had to follow orders. When they arrived at the location, Essid sat down on a bench. His peace was soon interrupted when Akane showed up. She asked why he was there, and they bickered for a while before where she sat next to him. Their grandparents arrived, and to their shock, they seemed to get along really well. They were invited inside for lunch, where Akane kept drinking juice, explaining that she had lost her appetite after seeing SED. They started fighting again, which made their grandparents laugh. The grandparents explained that they had been just like An and SEO when they were in high school out of nowhere. Their grandparents hit them with a straight-up bong shell. It wanted Kane and SEO to get hitched. Both of them froze, looking like they'd just been slapped across the face, like they'd been watching some wild Anrokai recap and couldn't help but smash that subscribe button. They were legit stunned, like the world just flipped on them, and they were stuck in a crazy reality they didn't ask for. Never mind, back to the story, so they quickly shot down the idea, practically screaming that they hated each other too much to ever make it work. But their grandparents weren't having it. SEO's grandfather clapped his hands and a bunch of workers rolled in this hideous mangy dog. He smirked dead serious and told us that if he didn't marry Akane, that dog would become the next heir to the Hojo company. Sada was dumbstruck, completely baffled by his grandfather's insane proposition. But as he looked at the cold, hard look in his grandfather's eyes, he realized he wasn't joking. The man was in on making that Manangi mutt. The next big thing, A's grandmother leaned in, whispering something in her ear. Akin's face shifted, and for the first time there was a hint of fear in her eyes. Sue's grandfather gave him a deadline, 3 days, to decide if they'd go through the forced marriage as they left the house. The tension was thick between them. In trying to break the silence, asked if Sue was serious about marrying her. But A's not in the for her questions, turned the tables and asked her what her grandmother had whispered in her ear. Ayn immediately got flustered and shut down, refusing to answer. They parted ways, both still holding on to the same stubborn refusal. They would never marry each other back at home. Kekkon lay sprawled out on her bed, her mind swirling around the whole mess. She remembered how no matter how hard she tried, she always came second in class. While Sada always managed to snag the top spot, she grabbed her phone and dialed Hymar, needing to talk it out. Hymar, as always, was blunt. She said she'd only marry her crush and encourage her to just go for it, telling her to suck it up and follow through with the marriage, even if it meant being stuck with a guy she couldn't stand. Meanwhile, Sada was filled with dread about the idea of marrying Kekkon, the one person he hated most in his grade shizzy, who had been listening to his complaints on his lap and encouraged him to make the right decision. Sada patted her head, deciding that he would agree to his grandfather's proposal to achieve his dream the next day. He tried to approach Aonin, but she turned her face away from him in response. Finally, the day arrived for them to announce their decision together. They told their grandparents that they would marry each other. In clarified that she was only marrying SE because she was being forced into it, but there was a feeling of like, in the marriage, the grandparents were pleased with their decision and informed them that they would be living in a new house prepared for them. A and S were dropped off there, and their grandparents told them this would be their new love nest as they entered the house. In and Sada began bickering again. Ain was excited about the luxurious interior, but Sada pointed out how she was acting, all hiked up. Ain explained that this would have been the perfect place for her to live alone. They toured the house, exploring various rooms. When they entered the bedroom, a cannon suddenly yelled out that there was only one bed. Angry called his grandfather to ask about the bedroom situation. His grandfather forbade them from using the sofa and insisted they share the bed. Ain was scared they would have to do the deed that night, but quickly reassured her that he had no intention of doing anything like that with her. The couple then focused on unpacking their things in their rooms after all the hard work. Sada walked into their bedroom, collapsed on the bed, and felt completely exhausted. A while later, Ain joined him, and they both became shy in each other's presence. They complained about the bed being too small for both of them, and firmly told Sada not to try anything funny with her. They began discussing their marriage agreement. Ain explained that she agreed to marry him solely for the sake of her dream. When he asked her about that dream, she refused to share anything he then asked. But what happened if his grandfather added the condition of having a baby to their marriage contract? This question made Kekkon panic, and she quickly jumped, accidentally, bumping into her, but touched his, and he commented on how soft it was. Embarrassed, Ain grabbed his hand and threatened to break it if he kept bothering her back in the present. Ain warned Sada not to tell anyone about their marriage at school. She was scared that their social and student lives would be ruined. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thrilling anime content. Stay tuned for the next adventure with GBJ Recaps.